a man has to work on DoorDash when he's really an air traffic controller, that we applauded, and we're up here talking about how much some money is going to cost, and the only person that don't have a check coming is him. You know what I'm going to do? I'm going to take a break.
And off he went, although he did come back. Jessica, I'm going to start with you because Republicans control the House, the Senate, and the White House, and you are going to tell me that it is Republicans who have voted to keep the government open, which is true. Republicans, though, are also in control of the government. It is very difficult for people to say we're not going to blame Republicans who control the government for it being shut down. At what point do stories like that are going to start popping up all over the place of federal workers showing up for work and driving DoorDash change the conversation?
Well, Democrats control whether or not the government is going to be opened again, and that is definitely clear. And we've seen it play out the last 2 weeks here in Washington, where Democrats have voted 9 times to keep the government closed over funding levels that they previously supported.
I stipulated all that in my question.
Times.
I stipulated all that in my question.
Times,
so,
Leland.
Does this at some the answer may be no, but does it at some point change Republicans' calculus?
But it's not Republicans that have to change their calculus, it's Democrats. There needs to be 6, 7, maybe 8 Democrats that come to the table in the Senate to open the government. They can't open the government without Democrats. They have to come to the table.
There is at least one Democrat who's voted to keep the government open, and that's John Fetterman, who was on the set tonight. One of the few that was brave enough to show up and have a conversation among everybody. How worried should Democrats be, or are they hoping that there's enough pressure and dissent within their ranks that 8, 9, 10 other Democratic senators can vote to reopen the government?
I actually think that Chuck Schumer hopes that everybody stays united together, because in order for those 6 or 7 to break off and join Fetterman, they're going to have to give a reason as to why they don't believe in Chuck Schumer's leadership, and that would be undermining. He's looking to return as the leader and get the votes a year from now, 2027.
There's only one person, though, and she's in the House, right, that AOC hopes.
I know AOC wants to see if this is her shot, but this is really Schumer's chance to show true leadership, and he's going to make sure that folks stay locked in here.
Shelby, and I think the reason the government shut down, which is as boring as it is to talk about, is hugely important to so many Americans, is because of what they see. Fundamentally, American people are fair. They believe you work an honest day's work, you should get an honest day's paycheck, and there are people who are not. At the White House, is there a plan going forward when more of those stories start popping up, or is it what we've already seen? We're going to start paying the military, we're going to start paying the FBI, we're going to start paying air traffic control.
It's more of what we have already seen. So they have already paid the military for this paycheck for the October 15th period. But remember, this is not sustainable. And nobody that I'm talking to inside the White House says it's sustainable, because at some point they're going to run out of money. Imagine, I mean, it took them firing thousands of federal workers just to get some of that money for this. And now they're trying to find money for law enforcement. We still don't know whether that includes Border Patrol, whether that includes the Capitol Police. And so there's a lot of questions that still remain. And nobody inside the administration thinks that this is a long-term sustainable position. But at the same time, when I talk to White House officials, they're saying, well, we're showing that we're doing as much as we can right now with the government shutdown, and they're maintaining that they're not going to move an inch in terms of Democrats want them to open the government up and vote on these subsidies.
And you Missy, though, there's a point here for Democrats that if they are seen as obstructionists, that doesn't help them in the midterms. It's already that CNN is now saying there's a very reasonable chance Republicans keep the House. Democrats could lose more than a dozen seats if they're seen as playing politics, so Chuck Schumer keeps his majority leadership, rather than paying the American people.
Well, if they want to talk about people playing politics, they should look to the president and the leadership in the White House. The president brokered a deal in the Middle East, which was dynamic and a magnificent moment. He was able to find peace between Israel and Hamas. And at that same time, he came back domestically to a country that, to the outside world, looks to be in chaos. And now he's talking about cutting democratic programs. Well, those are programs that Americans, Democrat and Republican, use. Small business loans, rural broadband. I mean, the president is still not looking at ways for both.
Yeah, I mean, Jessica, I think this is sort of a point, though, right? That the goalposts are moving in terms of the reopening government, from just health care to now rural broadband.
Illegals.
Now rural broadband, renegotiate Obamacare. There's a lot of things there that you just named.
Right. And for what it's worth, Republicans did come to the table and say they would be willing to offer some concessions on the health care front, but not health care for illegals. And I want to go back to the political point because I actually think it's a good one. When you remember what happened after the 2013 shutdown, what happened in 2014? You had big Republican majorities because the Republicans that were holding out for that shutdown were doing it for the American people. The messaging from Schumer is not for the American people. It's for illegals and it's for politics. And I don't think that's going to reward him next year.
I think that's the divisive line here, is that Democrats are holding strong to the fact that we do not provide health care for undocumented immigrants. We provide health care for asylees, TSPs.
It has happened.
I mean, as
and
somebody...
it's also happened because Biden redefined the definition of that. And that is what's happened in the last 2 years. So there's a lot of things that are going on here.
I'm feeling we have moved away from the guy who's driving DoorDash.
I also think, though, that this conversation here is exactly what's going on in Congress and inside the White House, where you have two different sides saying completely different things for weeks now. Nobody has changed their stances. Nobody has said anything different from day one of the shutdown. Nothing is changing because nobody seems willing to budge on either side of the spectrum.
And then we wait and see when the pressure builds enough with those stories. Ladies, thank you very much.